Good morning, Year 12. Hope all's well. You have been working on your water and carbon cycle notes, okay? I thought what I'd do for another bit of work for you, which is not just going through the notes, I've tried to set an essay for you, okay? And in this 5-minute clip, 10-minute clip, I'm going to try to explain to you how to write the essay. I've put another detailed plan on showing my homework anyway, so you've got that as well. But I'd just like to touch base with you, say good morning, hope all's well. And we'll soon be back at school doing our geography. Okay, so Jack, if you come over here, we're going to look at the questions. Okay, so that's the question, and it'll be posted on showing my homework. Discuss the extent to which drainage basin systems have an impact on the water cycle. It's page 2 to 8 in the Cambridge textbook. Okay, and before we start, so explain. Okay. The extent to which, so you have to have an argument, and if you remember, AO2, the syllabus is the argument, okay, to which drainage basin systems, there's the global system, which is the drainage basin system, the lithosphere, okay, there's also within, if you go to a different scale, you've got different sorts of drainage basin separated by watersheds, but basically, there is one major drainage basin system, the lithosphere, the water goes through the land, but within the land you've got different drainage basins as well, just smaller versions, a micro scale, but the macro is like a global pattern. And your essay really is talking about the global one, but just to mention the fact that drainage basins, there's lots of different sizes and shapes all around the world, but there is a general pattern, and it's the major global one I think are what you want to focus on really. And then also if you look here, the impact on the water cycle. So the argument really is the drainage basin important? Well, of course it's important, without it doesn't work, okay? And so how we're going to set up our essay, to start with, we're going to have a nice clear introduction, okay? And that's basically producing the argument that the drainage basin is integral to the water cycle system, okay? The water cycle system, you need to define what water cycle is. You need to define what drainage basin is. You also need to define what the drainage basin system is an open system. So you need some sort of conversation about systems. Just mention it in the introduction, don't have to go into much detail. And the water cycle is a closed system, okay? And they're all part of the same system, and that's like in your introduction, and you could also within your introduction, and that's really this bit here, page 2 and 3 of the Cambridge book, which you've got the pages for. So we just go to we go to the introduction. Okay, we've got a little bit of definitions. Okay, the water cycle is a complex system. Okay, where you have a series of stores and flows, which you can just say in your introduction as well. Stores and flows, and basically what you've got is you could do a little simple diagram where you have the air, you have your land, which is the bit you're focusing on, okay, and then that goes to the sea. And so what you've got is there's your flows, there's your stores, okay, and that's really the drainage basin system, or what is called the lithosphere. Part of the spheres, which sometimes they talk about as well, which is on page 3, which is here. So that's like your introduction. The drainage basin is an open system where water moves through the land, section of the water cycle. Make sure you define what open system and closed system is, and what the system's idea is in geography. It's a way of putting processes into an easier way to understand it, really. There's criticisms of it, but it is that's why it's a good idea, okay? And then you've got your next section, okay, which is number 2, part 2, okay, is looking really at page 3. I would talk about really talking about how you've got this bit here really, which is talk about the spheres and the domains of the water cycle. So you're talking about the lithosphere, the hydrosphere, the cryosphere, and the atmosphere, and how the water moves between that as well. So that's a lot more of a detailed version of that. Okay, so that's your second paragraph really, and you say water is able to exist in 3 states, You've got your solid, liquid and gas. Okay, you can talk about that as well in your next paragraph, but really we're just starting the essay really. We haven't got our teeth into it. And then the main body of the essay, number 3, or number 4, depends how you set out your plan. You can look at the one I'll show at home, it's a similar one. The main body of the essay is looking at the drainage basin as a system. As I said, there's different scales. There's the massive global one, which talks about it there. It's a complex system. You talk about the global pattern, and it's a subsystem of the water cycle. But then also you can talk about how there's smaller versions, like you have the one in the Amazon, which is the size of Europe basically. And then you can go smaller. The River Neat here and around here is a small drainage basin system as well. So you then go into the idea of what a drainage basin is, and then you start using key terms. So you start talking, and that's on page 4 and page 5. But really, not so much that. It's more this. Page 5 really. I would say there's a bit of that, but you've got to keep it a bit more clipped. It's a 20 marker. Okay, you talk about the watershed and how that separates drainage basins on a smaller scale. You talk about the water budget. Okay, hello Fuzzy, you come to learning. Okay, you talk about the water table. Okay, and then what we do then, we go into the idea of looking, perhaps then figure 1.5, talk about that. And the whole essay really that's on page 6. You draw that diagram, and then basically the body of your essay is talking about that. So you still put it in the idea of systems. So you talk about the inputs. So the inputs, you've got precipitation, that's the main one, in different states. And that goes back to what you said in an earlier paragraph. Okay. Then you talk about the stores. And the different stores, you've got interception storage, you've got vegetation storage, transpiration, infiltration capacity, soil moisture, soil water, surface depression storage, puddles basically, or lakes on a larger scale, channel storage, how the water sits in the channel sometimes in these massive rivers. And then you can mention how a tree, that's its role within the storage as well, because a tree has a big role to play in holding water in the landscape, vegetation storage. You can draw that diagram, figure 1.6. Then you talk about the flows of the system. Okay, so you've got your inputs, you've got your stores, you've got your flows between it, all these different flows, the movement. So what do we mean by flows? Groundwater flow, overland flow, water going across the top, sometimes called surface runoff. Talk about through flow, going through the soil, or sometimes called interflow. Then you've got through fall, which is water going through, which isn't in the book. Google that, have a look at that. Through fall is basically the water going through plants, falling down the stems of plants and branches. So you've got all that to talk about, and then the next bit is, so it's the main body of your essay, and then it's the outputs. Basically you've got like runoff, and you've got evapotranspiration where it goes back up into the air, and then that links back to the water cycle. And it, without the drainage basin system, you don't get the water cycle. It doesn't work, because that bit is the bit that you've got to talk about. It goes back to the essay title, discuss the extent to which drainage basin systems have an impact on the water cycle. Well, it has a massive impact. Without it, it doesn't work. Okay? Then you write a conclusion. Okay, so you do your conclusion then. And basically, you have your AO2, which is your argument. You must go back to the question and say, yes, drainage basin systems have a massive integral part to the water cycle. They are a subsystem of the large system, the large closed system, which is the water cycle. You can say without it, it wouldn't exist. It's a very important part for recycling water from the air to the sea, to the air again in an ongoing cycle. Okay, so you've got your AO2, which is your argument, and your AO1, which is all of this content really, which is the paragraph 4, which is the drainage basin as a system. It's all this. Okay, and you've got to put in your argument now. And if you look in the other book as well, if you've got the other book, it does the same idea as well. I mean, it's classic 101, how water moves through the landscape. But it's cloaked in this essay question to the extent to which. So really, you just got to make sure that you do have an argument that it's integral, and you can back it up by talking about at the beginning here, this bit here.
says here, the water and carbon cycles are both closed systems on a global scale. On a smaller scale, however, they include open subsystems such as the drainage basin or the workings of a tropical rainforest. So that's the sort of part of your AO2 argument. The interactions between different locations of Earth, sometimes as remote teleconnections, are sometimes hard to visualise. The interactions between the water and carbon cycles are often invisible in the same way. And you could have an essay talking about water and carbon and how they're linked. You might do one like that, but that's not so much the point. Okay, I think have a go. Read these, page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, a little bit of 8, as far as nothing need to go, and then try and pull together an essay like that. But if you go and show my homework, I've done a plan as well on there. What I've tried to do is just try to show you really with words how to do it. Alright? So I hope you're all well. Stick with it, keep doing those notes, okay? Keep doing the carbon cycle and the water cycle notes, increasing understanding. When we get back to school, I'll go through it all with you anyway, okay? You know, if you think in 6 weeks we've done 3 essays, you're cracking on, doing lots of progress, and it's just one half of your geography, so you're fine. So don't worry about it, and I'll see you all soon. Take care.